So you're noticing maybe your furry friends slowing down a bit,
Yeah.
and you want to make sure you're doing everything you can, to support them in their golden years.
Mhm.
And that's what we're talking about today. We dug through a mountain of research on senior dog care.
Yeah, articles, videos, you name it. Really, it's all about helping our canine companions enjoy these golden years to the fullest.
Absolutely.
Aging is natural, right? It's not a disease. And with the right care, I think we can make a world of difference.
Absolutely. Now, I know one of the first questions people have is, when is a dog officially senior? It's not like they get an AARP card or something.
Right, exactly. It's not one size fits all. Breed size plays a big role. Like a Great Dane might be considered senior at 6,
Oh, wow.
but a little terrier could be bouncing around well into their teens before you see them slowing down.
Wow.
The smaller the dog, the slower their clock seems to tick.
Fascinating. But it's not just about age, is it?
No, definitely not. You know your dog best. You see them every day. Those subtle changes in behavior, their energy levels, how they sleep, those are just as important as any number.
That's such a good point, because it's easy to miss those subtle signs when you're with them every day. I think it's like,
Ah.
you don't really notice your kids getting taller until you see a picture from like a year ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh.
And the experts we read were really big on early detection.
Okay.
Like the RSPCA, for example, really stressed being proactive. Noticing those little red flags can make a huge difference in the long run.
So what kind of red flags should we be keeping an eye out for?
Well, stiffness is a big one, especially in the morning after naps.
Okay.
Maybe they're not as excited about those marathon fetch sessions anymore, or maybe they hesitate before jumping on the couch.
Well, that's heartbreaking.
It is. And then changes in appetite is another one to watch for.
Ah.
Are they eating less? Are they pickier? You might also see changes in their bathroom habits, more frequent accidents, maybe just a general increase in bathroom breaks.
Okay, so those are all things I'll be keeping an eye on with my pup.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, what should we do if we notice these things? Like, should we be running to the vet every time? Like, our dog seems a little stiff after a nap.
Not necessarily. You don't want to go overboard. It's all about finding that balance. The articles we looked at, they all recommended, at least once a year visits for senior dogs.
Okay, yeah.
Some even suggested twice a year once they hit, those true golden years like 8, 9, 10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just like us, Those checkups, they become even more important as they get older.
That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of those vet visits,
Yeah.
what can we expect at those appointments? Is it just like a quick peek in the ears?
No, there's definitely more to it, especially for senior dogs.
Okay.
Besides that physical exam, those blood work and urine analysis tests, they can reveal a lot about their organ function.
Okay.
Things like kidney and liver health, which are really important to monitor. And don't be surprised if your vet recommends x-rays too, especially if they're showing signs of, joint pain or stiffness.
Okay, so it's about getting a comprehensive picture of their health.
Exactly. Catch those potential problems early.
Catch them early. So we've talked about what the vet can do, but what about us? What are some things that we can do at home to keep our senior pups feeling their best?
That's where things get really interesting, because it's not just about vet visits, it's about a whole lifestyle shift.
Okay.
And a big part of that is diet.
Okay, so let's dive into this Senior Dog diet makeover. What should we be putting on their plates?
Well, just like us, senior dogs have different nutritional needs. Their metabolism slows down. They might not need as many calories as they used to.
So does that mean like saying goodbye to those endless bowls of kibble?
Not necessarily, but portion control becomes even more important.
Okay.
And the quality of their food matters too.
Okay.
A lot of the articles we read, like the one from PetMD, they really highlighted the benefits of switching to a senior-specific food.
Okay, so what's so special about those senior dog food formulas?
Well, they're often formulated with higher quality protein, which is important because it helps maintain their muscle mass, something that tends to decrease as dogs age.
Okay.
And a lot of them contain glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate.
Okay, now those are some big words. What do they do?
Think of them like building blocks for healthy joints.
Okay.
And let's be honest, those joints might be feeling a bit creaky these days.
Right. I can definitely see how those ingredients would be helpful. So we're adjusting their food to match their changing needs.
Huh.
It's just like us. You wouldn't fuel your body for a marathon with the same food you would eat to relax on a Sunday.
Exactly. And speaking of adjustments, what about those pups who are carrying a little extra weight?
Ah, yes. The pleasingly plump pups, as I like to call them.
Yeah.
What can we do to help them slim down a bit?
Weight management is huge for senior dogs.
Okay.
In fact, all the vets we rate, they stress work with your vet to find that right balance of food and exercise. There's even a body condition scoring chart.
Yes.
So you can actually feel their ribs to see if they're at a healthy weight.
I had no idea. That's definitely something I'm going to be asking my vet about. Okay, so we've got diet covered. What about exercise? I know my dog, if I even whisper the word walk, he's at the door before I can finish the sentence. Do senior dogs still need that same level of activity?
They do, but as the Rebound Hounds video put it, just because they might be slowing down doesn't mean avoid exercise altogether.
I love that. Okay, so walks are still on the table. Maybe those marathon fetch sessions need a little tweaking.
Probably, but the key is to adapt. Think low-impact activities. Gentle walks, maybe even swimming.
Swimming for senior dogs.
Absolutely. It's fantastic for them. It's so gentle on their joints. The only thing is water safety. Even if your dog's a good swimmer, a life vest isn't a bad idea as they get older. You never know.
That's a really good point. Better safe than sorry. Now, I want to switch gears for a moment and talk about those senior moments, like those times where your dog just stares blankly at the wall or they seem to forget where their food bowl is.
Right.
It's heartbreaking. But is that just a normal part of aging?
It can be. Just like humans, dogs can experience some cognitive decline as they age. The Schwartzman Animal Medical Center, they actually called it canine cognitive dysfunction in their video. But essentially, those senior moments, they're often just a sign of their brains aging. But there is good news. There's a lot we can do to help.
Okay, so it's like with physical exercise.
Yeah.
Keeping their brains active can make a big difference.
Exactly. And it can be fun. Remember those puzzle toys we mentioned where they have to figure out how to get the treats out?
Oh, yeah. My dog loves those. They keep him entertained for, ages.
And they're stimulating his mind at the same time?
Yeah.
Another great one is scent work.
Okay.
You can hide treats around the house and let them sniff them out.
Oh, that's fun.
Right. So we're basically turning their world into one giant puzzle.
I love it.
And don't underestimate, just those simple things. Letting them stop and sniff to their heart's content on walks.
Okay.
That's giving their brain a workout, too.
This is great stuff. I'm already, planning out a whole, brain-boosting routine for my pup.
I love it.
Now, what about their physical environment? Are there things that we can do at home to make life a little easier, a little more comfortable for our senior dogs?
Absolutely. Think of it from your dog's perspective.
Okay.
What would make their lives easier with, aging joints, potentially diminished senses?
So, get down on all fours and, see the world through their eyes.
Well, not literally.
Okay.
But you get the idea.
Okay.
For example, hardwood floors, tile floors can be really treacherous for senior dogs, especially if their joints are achy.
Yeah.
Adding some non-slip rugs or runners can make a world of difference.
It's like wearing comfy slippers all day long. That makes sense.
Exactly. And what if your dog loves to snuggle on the couch or the bed, but they can't quite make the jump anymore? Ramps, pet stairs, those can be a lifesaver.
Okay.
And speaking of beds, I bet those old joints would appreciate a little extra cushioning too.
Absolutely. A good supportive bed can work wonders.
Right.
Speaking of which, you mentioned something earlier about elevating food in water bowls.
Yes.
I have to admit, I didn't quite understand why that was important.
Yeah, think about it. Bending down to eat from a bowl on the floor can be tough on their necks and their backs.
Right.
Especially as they get older.
Okay.
Elevating the bowls just takes some pressure off those joints.
Oh, wow. You're right. I would have never even thought about that, but it makes perfect sense.
It's all about those little adjustments.
Right.
And remember that senior dogs, they might be more sensitive to temperature changes too.
Okay.
So keep them warm in the winter, cool in the summer, and make sure they always have access to fresh, clean water.
Got it. Keep them comfortable and hydrated. Now, we've covered their physical comfort, their mental stimulation, their diet. Is there anything else we should be mindful of as our dogs enter their golden years? Anything that maybe we're not even thinking about?
Yeah, there's one more thing that several sources mentioned. The emotional well-being of senior dogs.
Oh, that's a really important point.
Yeah.
Because they're going through so many changes. I mean, it's bound to take an emotional toll, even if they can't necessarily tell us.
Right, exactly. And they might not be able to communicate those feelings in the same way they used to.
Right.
So it's up to us to be extra attuned to their emotional needs.
Okay, I'm on board with that. But how can we tell if our senior dog is, feeling stressed or anxious?
Look for changes in their behavior. Are they more clingy than usual? Are they hiding more? Have their sleep patterns changed? Are they suddenly more reactive to noises or other dogs?
So basically, any significant shift in their normal behavior could be a red flag.
Exactly. And if you notice those signs, it's important to talk to your vet. There might be some underlying medical issues that are contributing to their stress, or they might just need some extra TLC.
Extra TLC. Okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
What are some ways that we can provide that extra TLC?
Well, routine is really important.
Right.
Senior dogs thrive on predictability.
Okay.
So trying to stick to a consistent schedule for feeding, walks, playtime.
That sense of stability helps reduce their anxiety.
Exactly. And make sure they're getting enough rest.
No.
Older dogs need more sleep than younger dogs.
Okay.
Create a quiet, comfortable space where they can relax undisturbed.
Oh, I can relate to that.
Right.
Now that we're talking about rest, I could really use a nap. But we're not done yet. What else?
Yeah. Well, don't underestimate the power of just simple love and affection.
Uh,
Spending quality time with your dog, giving them lots of cuddles, gentle strokes, talk to them in a soothing voice. Those things go a long way.
it's about just being present with them,
Exactly.
being there for them.
Exactly. And remember, it's okay to spoil them a little. Extra treats, a new comfy bed, maybe even a gentle massage. These are all great ways to show your senior dog how much you love them.
I love that. Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, where we'll be discussing some of the more challenging aspects of senior dog care, I want to reiterate something that you mentioned earlier. Remember how important it is to not just accept these changes in our dogs as simply normal aging.
Absolutely.
Sometimes those changes can be a sign of an underlying health issue that needs veterinary attention.
Exactly.
So in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of those potential red flags that should send us running to the vet. We'll give you the information you need to advocate for your furry friend and make sure that they're getting the best possible care. Okay, so we're back and we're ready to tackle some of the more, specific health challenges that can crop up as our dogs, enter their golden years. And I have to admit, this is the part where I start to get a little anxious just thinking about like all the things that could go wrong. But I guess the good news is knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. And the more we understand about these potential health issues, the better equipped we are to handle them. And plus, a lot of these conditions, they can be managed really effectively with, the right care, medication, and those lifestyle adjustments we were talking about earlier.
That's good to hear. That's reassuring. So where do you want to start? What's like a really common health concern that a lot of senior dog owners might face?
Well, arthritis is a big one. Pretty much every single source we looked at mentioned it.
Really? So it's like incredibly common in senior dogs.
It is. Think about all the wear and tear those joints endure over all those games of fetch, all those leaps onto the couch,
Yeah,
all those walks around the block. It adds up.
it makes sense. Yeah. I can't even imagine how painful that must be for them.
It can be debilitating for dogs, which is why it's so important to, get a diagnosis from your vet, discuss those treatment options. The good news is there's a lot we can do to manage it and keep our dogs comfortable.
Okay, so let's talk about those treatment options. Like, what can vets do to help?
Well, anti-inflammatory medications are often prescribed to, reduce the pain and inflammation in those joints.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything else?
And remember those supplements we talked about, glucosamine, chondroitin?
Yeah.
Those can be really helpful for some dogs too. They provide those building blocks for healthy cartilage.
Right. Okay. So we've got medication, we've got supplements. What about just everyday things we can do at home to help our arthritic pups?
Those are just as important. Think back to what we talked about earlier, making your home senior dog friendly. Non-slip rugs, ramps, comfy orthopedic beds. Those all become even more important for dogs with arthritis.
And those elevated food bowls, too. No more painful bending to reach their food.
Exactly. And even though it might seem counterintuitive, gentle exercise is crucial, even for dogs with arthritis.
Really? I would have thought you'd want to keep them as still as possible, like to avoid any further pain.
That used to be the thinking, but now vets are realizing that gentle movement is really important for, keeping those joints lubricated, preventing muscle loss, which can actually make the pain worse in the long run.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So what kind of exercise are we talking about here?
Swimming is fantastic. As we discussed earlier, it's low impact, it supports their weight, takes the pressure off those achy joints. Short leash walks on soft surfaces like grass can also be really beneficial. The key is to avoid anything too strenuous or high impact, like jumping or running on hard surfaces.
Okay, that makes sense. We want to keep them moving, but within their limits, obviously. This is really helpful information. I feel like we're building like a comprehensive toolkit for senior dog care.
Yes.
Now, what about vision and hearing loss? Those are both pretty common concerns with aging dogs, right?
They are, and they can be challenging for both the dogs and the owners.
I bet. It's like their world is literally getting smaller and they might not understand what's happening.
Exactly. And that can lead to, confusion, anxiety, even fear in some cases. But just like with arthritis, there are ways to adapt and help our dogs adjust.
Okay, so let's talk about those adaptations. What can we do for dogs who are starting to lose their sight?
Well, consistency is key. Dogs with vision loss rely heavily on their memory and spatial awareness to navigate their surroundings. So try to avoid rearranging the furniture or changing their environment too much.
So no more like spontaneous redecorating sprees.
Probably not, unless you want to create an obstacle course for your poor pup.
Right.
It's like they've built this mental map of their home, and suddenly that map is no longer accurate.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
I can see how that would be really disorienting for them.
exactly. Another helpful tip is to use scent cues to help them find their way around.
Scent cues. How does that work?
Well, dogs rely so heavily on their sense of smell, and that often becomes even more acute as their sight diminishes. So you can use that to your advantage. For example, you could put a scented diffuser near their bed, or use like a specific air freshener in the room where their food and water bowls are located.
That's a great idea. It's like creating like olfactory landmarks for them. I love it.
Exactly.
Now, what about dogs with hearing loss? That seems like a tougher one to navigate.
It can be. For starters, those high-pitched whistles, squeaky toys, things they used to respond to, they might not work so well anymore.
Right. So we really need to adjust our communication strategies.
Precisely. Visual cues become even more important.
Okay.
Hand signals, for example, can be a great way to communicate with a hearing-impaired dog. And remember those gentle touches we talked about?
Yeah.
Those are especially important for dogs who can't hear you coming.
Right.
You don't want to startle them.
No, absolutely not. Startling a dog who's lost some of their hearing, that could be really scary for them.
Absolutely. And if you're calling their name and they don't respond, don't get frustrated. It doesn't mean they're ignoring you. They might just not hear you.
Right.
So be patient, be consistent, and just remember that, they're still the same loving dog, even if their senses aren't what they used to be.
That's such an important reminder. Now, we've talked about arthritis, we've talked about vision loss, hearing loss. Are there any other common health concerns that we should be aware of as our dogs, get up there in years?
Well, a few sources, especially some of the ones from like veterinary hospitals and organizations, they really stress the importance of, recognizing those potential red flags that warrant a trip to the vet.
That makes sense.
Like better safe than sorry, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, here's a rundown of some of those like warning signs that should never be ignored. First and foremost, any sudden or drastic changes in your dog's behavior, appetite, energy levels.
Okay, so if my normally energetic dog is suddenly lethargic and uninterested in playing, that's a big red flag. Absolutely. Same goes for changes in their bathroom habits, increased urination, accidents in the house, especially if they were previously house-trained, could be a sign of, a urinary tract infection, kidney problems, even diabetes.
Okay, those are definitely not things we want to ignore. What about their eating habits? Like if they suddenly turn their nose up at their favorite food, should we be worried? Or are they just being picky?
Well, while some dogs, they do become more selective eaters as they age, loss of appetite can be a symptom of a lot of different things.
Okay.
Including dental problems, gastrointestinal issues, even pain. So it's always best to err on the side of caution and consult with your vet.
So we're really paying attention to like those subtle shifts, those changes from their baseline behavior.
Exactly. And those shifts can be so gradual, we might not even realize it's happening until it becomes a bigger problem.
Right. Okay. So we've covered behavior, appetite, bathroom habits. What other red flags should we be on the lookout for?
Well, several sources, including the one from PetMD, mention changes in their physical appearance.
Okay.
Lumps or bumps that weren't there before, sores that don't heal, sudden weight loss or gain, or even changes in their coat condition, like excessive shedding or bald patches. These can all be signs of underlying health issues.
So we're basically doing a head-to-toe scan of our dogs on a regular basis.
Pretty much. And don't forget about their senses. If you notice your dog bumping into things, having trouble finding their food bowl, or not responding to their name, Those could be signs of vision or hearing loss, which we talked about earlier.
Okay, I'm definitely going to be paying closer attention to all of this. It's amazing how much we can learn just from, like, really observing our dogs closely.
It really is. And remember, we're not just looking for these signs in isolation.
Right.
If you see several of these red flags happening at once, it's even more important to get your dog to the vet, like ASAP.
It's like putting together a puzzle.
Yeah.
Like one piece by itself might not be a big deal, but when you start seeing several pieces fit together, it paints a clearer picture.
Exactly. And when it comes to our senior dogs, early detection is key.
Couldn't agree more. Now, I think we're ready to move on to the final part of our senior dog care deep dive, where we'll explore a topic that's, well, it's difficult to discuss, but it's incredibly important to address. You know, we've covered so much in this deep dive, from recognizing like those first subtle signs of aging to navigating, all the ins and outs of senior dog health. But there's one last topic we need to address, and it's a tough one.
Yeah, it's not easy to think about, but it is a reality for all pet parents. We're talking about end of life.
Exactly. It's never easy to say goodbye to a beloved pet, but it is a part of, the journey that we share with them. And I think it's so important to talk about it openly and honestly. Did our research offer any guidance on like how to make those difficult end-of-life decisions?
It did. One thing that really struck me was the emphasis on quality of life.
Okay.
The veterinary partner article, I think it was titled Senior Dog Health Issues, was really insightful about this.
Quality of life. I mean, it makes sense,
Yeah.
but it's also kind of a nebulous term. What does that actually mean in the context of, senior dogs?
It's about looking at the big picture. Like, is your dog still finding joy in the things they've always loved?
Okay.
Are they eating with their usual gusto? Are they playful and engaged? Do they seem comfortable, relatively pain-free?
Hmm.
Or are they struggling to move? Are they withdrawn, showing little interest in their surroundings?
So we're looking for those signs that, like, their spirit is still there.
Yeah.
That they're not just existing but really living, even if their body is, slowing down.
Exactly. And this is where those like really honest conversations with your vet are so invaluable.
Right.
Because they can help you assess your dog's overall health and well-being, guide you through those like incredibly difficult decisions.
Because ultimately it's about doing what's best for our dogs, even when it's like the hardest thing in the world.
Absolutely. And sometimes the kindest, most loving act is to, let them go peacefully, surrounded by love, rather than allowing them to suffer.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaking decision, but it's a testament to, I think, the depth of our love for them.
It really is. And the good news is there are resources out there to help us like navigate this really challenging time.
Okay.
Several of the sources we looked at, including that like really heartwarming YouTube video from Pixie's Plantation, they mentioned pet hospice care.
Oh, yeah, I remember that video. It was incredibly moving.
Yeah.
For those who haven't seen it, could you explain what pet hospice care entails?
Of course. It's very similar to like, hospice care for humans.
Okay.
It focuses on providing comfort and pain management for pets in their final days or weeks. And it allows them to stay in the comfort of their own homes, surrounded by their loved ones, rather than in a clinical setting.
That's such a beautiful concept. It's
Yeah.
about making those final days as peaceful and comfortable as possible.
Exactly. And it's not just about, physical comfort, it's about emotional support.
Yeah.
A lot of pet hospice organizations also offer grief counseling for pet parents, which can be, incredibly helpful during such a tough time.
Grief counseling is so important. Losing a dog, it's like losing a member of the family.
Yeah.
And the pain is so real.
It is.
And it's okay to ask for help and support during that time.
I couldn't agree more. It's really a testament to like the incredible bond we share with these animals. They leave such a paw print on our hearts.
So well said. As we wrap up this deep dive into the world of senior dog care, I think it's safe to say we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From those like heartwarming puppy-like moments to those, those challenging end-of-life decisions.
All part of the journey, right?
It is.
It is.
It is. And if there's one takeaway I hope our listeners will, carry with them, it's this. Cherish every moment with your senior dog. Celebrate their golden years. Embrace their quirks. And give them all the love and care that you can muster.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the world of senior dog care. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those tails wagging.